Hey everybody, and welcome back to the live stream from the Sydney Summit 2018. I'm Dr. Pete, and with me I have Jared.
Hi again, back on stage.
And we've got a special guest called Chris Howard. Now, Chris Howard is somebody really, really important, and that's some Year 9, Year 10 students jumping behind us. She's really, really important. She is actually the director of YOW. Now, for those of you who live in APAC, Asia Pacific, YOW is a developer conference. So Chris has been actually heading this, she's the director of it. So Chris, tell us a little bit about you and what is YOW?
So, well, about me, you can tell from the accent.
You're not from around
here. I've been in Sydney for 17 years. Was a developer back in the day, business analyst, ran teams at Channel 9. I worked at Canva, which is a great Australian startup. And joined YOW about a year and a half ago. So we've been doing tech conferences in Australia for 10 years. We do about a dozen events over the course of the year. We do a lot of meetups, basically events for developers by developers.
Awesome. And today you're here to actually talk about a very important topic that's close to your heart and ours.
Well,
and that is, we're talking about the state of the nation of women in IT.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about that. Give us an update. What's happened in the ecosystem? You know, how have things evolved over time? There's a lot of conversation. I know inside AWS we talk a lot about these things.
Yep.
We've got lots of activity internally, but I want to hear from you and what's been happening in your neck of the woods in this particular area.
I've been joking that I need to write an ebook about this because lately I keep getting invitations to come have a coffee with someone who's basically saying, how do I hire more women in tech?
Right.
Everybody in Australia is asking that question now, which is great. I'm really thrilled that people are asking the question. I feel kind of weird giving them advice because most of the advice I give them feels like common sense stuff.
So what do you tell them?
Well,
What kind of things?
one of the things I tell them, and one of the things I really think is a lot of women I'm seeing right now are coming to tech from other careers. There's a group in Sydney called Node Girls, which I've mentored with, and a lot of men and women have mentored with, which teaches women JavaScript as an entryway into coding. They get 200 women every quarter wanting to learn this. If you are restricting your search to engineers, to people coming from a top-tier CS degree, you are missing out on a massive pipeline of talent. These are people who have existing career experience in other industries.
So where did they come from?
Great.
Give us some examples.
I mean, I was talking to women at it. There were people coming over from HR, from marketing, met a woman who was coming from journalism who started dabbling in code because she wanted to do more really cool graphics with her stories and then realized she loved writing code. So, you know, we're getting a lot of women who, look, there's so many reasons why women don't do CS degrees. I mean, I did a communications degree. I was building websites all through college. I didn't do the CS degree. There's so many reasons why they don't. And if you exclude them from your hiring pipeline, you are missing out.
And I agree with you, right? I mean, you know, when you think about it, with serverless these days, you don't have to know all about the plumbing, right? You just write a bit of code, and if it's Python or Node, you just deploy it. And we've seen on Twitch a few sessions how simple it is to do this. So I can't see why people couldn't, just pivot from other careers.
And I think it's really important as well that people do actually get involved from IT with diverse backgrounds, because if you're all coming from that same CS background, you're all railroaded with the same thought processes, and
you think the same.
You think the same, and we need that diversity in thought. We need that diversity in leadership. We need that diversity by gender, race, all sorts of things. Diversity is really key, and we need to actually have people from all sorts of different experience, with different experience and different backgrounds to be able to make a difference across organisations.
Even groups like the coding boot camps, because I know they've sort of, not had the greatest reputation for a long time, but I'm now seeing people coming through boot camps who are being employed by big companies in Australia. And it's like, if the companies like ThoughtWorks are hiring from that pool, you're missing out if you're not.
Awesome. Now, we've got a question from the audience here. This is from Jenny, who's 15 years old. Awesome. Hi, Jenny. And the question is, how did you get into IT and why? Chris, I mean, what's your story?
I mean, I'm lucky enough in that my mom is actually a sysadmin, or was for a long time.
Okay, so it's in the family.
So we always had a PC growing up. And in college, I went off to uni and was just entranced by this thing called the World Wide Web. So I built a website in college for the children's author Roald Dahl, RoaldDahlFans.com. That website is going 21 years later.
Wow.
What?
And so it's...
Impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive.
And so that was my entry into it. You know, it was just... I just loved what you could accomplish, meeting people from all over the world. That led me to... Actually, I got to go to his house and meet his widow and go into his writing shed. Like, it's an amazing thing. And from there, I went to London and got a job in the .com boom writing HTML. Like,
a lot of people did.
So much fun. So much fun. Like, that's the big thing for me is I think a lot of people think it means sitting in a cubicle and churning out code without really realizing what an amazing career this can be and how far it can take you. Literally how far it can take you.
So before we got on, you were talking about some misconceptions in the industry, and I know there was one that's you get hounded a little bit by, and that's that apparently people think your husband writes your code. Well, what's with that? That's crazy.
There was a Twitter discussion about this recently because
really?
a lot of women in tech. Okay. We have partners who are in tech, I think, just because, the circles you move in. And my partner is an engineer as well. And I'm also a knitter. And so I did a session at Camp JS a few years back where I taught all the developers to knit. And I knitted a hat for the event and worked an Arduino into it so it lit up and blinked. Yeah. Oh, so there was a bit of IoT in there as well.
Wasn't it Christmas? You could have trees.
It was a very misty mountain. It kept me visible on the mountain.
Thread and everything?
Yeah, conductive thread wove into the brim. And I was showing it off to someone, and he went, "Great. Did your husband write the code?" And I was like, dude, really?
Bit presumptive.
Yeah. And it wasn't even that cool. It was a blink.
Cool.
It wasn't even that complicated. So, so annoying.
All right, next question. All right, so what's the coolest meetup you've actually attended this year? And which would you recommend for people to visit? And that's from Freaky Stewart.
Oh,
thanks, Stewart.
Coolest meetup. Well, actually, yeah, Sydney Machine Learning is pretty good. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. I'll be honest. I think I ran the coolest one this year.
What's that?
I ran a stream at Linux conference this year on art and technology, which was a full day of talks from people doing cool things like generative art with neural networks, with people building cool Arduino light up bars in their house, and it was a whole day of these kind of things, which is what I like. I love people being creative and doing stuff. I mean, I like hearing what's in the latest framework too, don't get me wrong, but that was the coolest meetup by far.
Yeah, so, and look, when I think about technology, I mean, we've moved so much over the years, right? I mean, software development used to be this special crafty bit that you do in a back room and never come out, and, you had to be unusual, peculiar to do development, whereas coding these days, we've got kids, we've got Year 9 students walking around the summit here who are already doing development, right? You've got 6-year-olds playing with Arduinos and using Scratch and, a whole bunch of, IDEs to get the young generation of, the next leaders doing on it. And I had an interesting stat. I met a couple of folks out of the US who were telling me that I think at Stanford for the first time, I think 2 years ago, there were more females in the first year comp sci degree than ever.
That's
so
amazing.
more than males.
I mean, it's hard. Like, look, I'm a conference organizer, and one of the big things I struggle with is I want to get women visible. I want visibility for senior women in tech in Australia. And right now, a really hard thing, and it's kind of a compliment to the Australian industry, is I see so many of our senior technical Australian women getting offers to go overseas.
Wow. Well,
and it's nice. It's flattering. I know quite a few of them.
Stay here. Don't go anywhere. So what are the stats? I mean, do we have any numbers that you can share with us around?
I can definitely look some up. I mean, the biggest stat for me is I'm one of the organizers for Sydney Tech Leaders, and we wanted to have a night of CTOs. I found 3 women CTOs in Sydney. I know tons of junior devs, but there is a whole level that have gone overseas for great opportunities, and I'm trying. We need to all work together to bring them back. I want to bring them back.
Yep. Now, I've got a question actually from the expo floor. I don't know if it's really related to what we're talking about that much, but we've been asked who's the little guy on the right-hand side of the stage, the one with the bright eyes. I'm assuming that we're referring to the little astronaut.
Oh, okay. It's a Cloud Guru little LED light that you plug into USB ports. So.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so you actually in the summit floor, head over to the Cloud Guru folks. They're just around the corner, and go pick some up before
we know
they go.
They're speaking tonight at our event.
That's a great segue. What event is this that you speak of?
Coincidentally, Yao and AWS have partnered up for an event tonight after the summit ends over at the Hard Rock Cafe, just a few steps away. We've got Glenn Gore speaking, we've got Drew Ferment from a Cloud Guru, and we've got Rowan Voss from Atlassian, so it's going to be a really great...
Okay, so where's it at?
Hard Rock Cafe, right next door.
Just right next door.
Yep.
At what time?
I think we're kicking off probably about 6 once people get over there.
Okay.
If you go and look up AWS Yao, you will find it.
Okay, so guys, for those of you watching, go check out, go and Google for this, and hopefully if you're in Sydney, you can hopefully make it. All you girls, come on down.
Oh, yes. I shared it on Girl Geek Sydney. I've shared it on Women Who Code Sydney. We've got groups with thousands of women here. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of cloud and things like that, what are some of the favorite tech bits that you've been playing with? What's your favorite toy, gadget?
At the moment, I've been doing a little bit with the sort of zero UI, home automation stuff.
Okay. Like what?
Well, I don't have an Alexa yet.
Okay, well, there's one here.
Yes. That's next on my list.
Right.
But playing with things like my air conditioner. My air conditioner is not Wi-Fi enabled, so doing a little reverse engineering of the infrared codes so that I can say, hey, it's getting hot in here, and have my AC turn on.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other one I really want is to say, hey, I'm hanging the clothes on the line, and have it tell me if it's about to rain. That's my $1 million. That's my $1 million idea. Don't tell anybody.
There's a few of those already floating around, though.
I did work for a company once that weather was really important to what we did.
Yeah.
And a little bit of fiddling and scraping of radar images certainly helps predict that.
That's what discussions we have at my house around the dinner table is how would we machine learning do this? Yes. Yeah.
So how about, so this is a, whoa, another question. All right, so there's an element of you playing with gadgets and devices and writing code. So what's your favorite framework for development?
Oh, well, see, here's the thing. And this goes to one of the issues of women in tech. I was a PHP developer back in the day. Okay. And it's one of those things where I used to apologize for that and it's always, we would make jokes about it, and it's part of this contempt culture, which is this thing we do in tech where we signify that we're in on the joke and we're part of the tribe by flaming other tech, by crapping on things. And it's fun and it can make you feel part of the team, but it's also not welcoming to newbies.
So you've got to start somewhere, and sometimes it's something that's simple, something that's effective and can get things done that gets people started with tech and actually gets them rolling and puts them on the trail to bigger and better things.
I mean, the Roald Dahl site runs on WordPress, which I was really reluctant to use, and a friend of mine was like, why roll your own? Why not use the best tool for the job? That's what it's made for.
That's exactly what it's about.
That's what I've been playing with lately, is building some more stuff in there, building some custom stuff in there. Yeah,
I've always been saying, you find the right tool, then you use it. Don't use the same hammer for every other problem. Right. Yep.
So we've got another question from the chat, actually, from at Free Artos. What are some of your ideas to attract women back from overseas back to Australia?
Oh, it is a great question.
Fantastic question.
I mean, we need to have an industry we need to have an industry here with jobs that pay really well and opportunities for them. You know, that's the main one. So I do a lot of work with startups. I'm a mentor for She Starts, which is a program to get women-led startups going. So just building up more companies. I think the speaker from Airtree yesterday in the keynote did a great job talking about just the need we have to bring more people in with skills who can build these businesses up. So building great opportunities. I think I don't understand why anyone would not want to live here. Like, the lifestyle is great. Like, honestly, I live in Sydney. I don't want to live in the Valley. I don't want anyone else to feel like they have to live in the... I went to a meetup recently with a local Aussie guy who was going to work in the Valley, and he told this whole crowd of junior developers, you too can achieve the dream and leave Australia. And I was like, mate, come on. Like, this is not the message we want to say. I don't want people to feel they have to leave to take their career to that level. So we need to allow them to reach that level here.
And what's interesting is we're seeing more and more founders who actually did the US overseas thing because they had to do it in the early days, now coming back into Australia. All right, now there's another question queue building up. So another question for you. This is from Yui Fatel from the expo floor. He says, if you could be in any AWS service, which would you like to be and why?
If I could be
an AWS service. That's an unusual question. All right.
I would probably be a Lambda function.
A Lambda function, and why?
It's very cool. I've been seeing a lot of talks recently about it and looking at some possibilities. I just think it's a really, really interesting technology.
You don't have any concerns when your container gets terminated?
Exactly.
I'll follow up with this other question as well. This comes from the chat as well, from Girl4Tech. Who is the better coder, you or your partner?
That's a difficult question.
Battle of the sexes here.
Listening, right?
He's probably watching this right now. He should be at work. Yeah, that's a good question.
You can whisper it to us.
He definitely is. Just because I don't do it day in and day out anymore. Yeah. So I would say it's great having an in-house tech resource. He can sometimes go down the rabbit hole of refactoring and refactoring, where I'm more...
He sounds like an SA, where we have to keep the saw sharpened, but at the same time we can get too far into the weeds.
Yeah.
I like an end result. I think the perfect is the enemy of the good, and oftentimes if you're scratching your own itch, getting something out there is better than endlessly playing playing with it. Yeah.
So I'm curious. So what's the typical dinner conversation in your household then? If you talk about optimizing and unrolling the loop, and you're going, that loop is fine, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Like I said, the weather discussion lately of how would my theoretical home, hanging clothes on the line system work. So I actually reached out to a friend who wrote a weather app, and I was like, hey, how did you do yours? So that kind of thing.
Okay. More questions coming. Here we go. Cool. Guys, keep the questions coming. For those of you sitting there in chat, don't be shy. Ask Chris any question you like, or Jared or myself. But she's way more interested than we are.
So Brett Looney asks this: Vegemite or Tim Tams?
I think it says for breakfast.
For breakfast.
For breakfast.
Well, look, it took me the Vegemite took me a few years. And so now I know. I think it's key. Americans don't realize very small amonts on butter.
Yeah.
And it tends to go better after you've had a big night.
So we have to explain what Vegemite is. By the way, Vegemite, somebody once explained to me who came from the US, it says, gee, it looks like brake fluid, and you're putting that stuff on your sandwich. That's kind of it. It's very salty.
Yes,
it's very
salty.
Australian.
Yes.
So you don't pile it on.
But Tim Tams, every time I go home, I take a suitcase full of Tim Tams. My family are obsessed with them.
From what I also hear, you can get Tim Tams in the US, but they're not the same.
They're not the same.
Exactly.
No. They're made there. No.
Cool.
No.
Cool. All right, so we're ready to wrap up shortly, but what are some of the upcoming conferences worth mentioning where, women can meet other women and learn from each other and
absolutely. So
catch up?
We've got 2 events coming up next month in Sydney. We've got Yao Data, which the speakers have just gone up. I'm really pleased. I think we've got at least a third of the speakers are women. We didn't quite get half, but we're working on it.
Okay.
One of my friends is doing my favorite talk of the conference called "Is the 370 the worst bus in Sydney?" I'm really looking forward. She's gonna prove that with data. So if you want to see that talk, come to Yao Data. We also have Yao Lambda Jam, which is functional programming. Look, that's a community where we need a lot of work on diversity. Sure. I have been learning Haskell and Scala this year. There are not a lot of women in those courses. It's something I think
there's not a lot of many guys doing Haskell.
It's a niche within a niche. That's one we really want to improve. And we've got Yao events coming up constantly. I'm doing one next week on citizen data science with someone from Linda McIver from the Australian Data Science Education Institute. So events happening all over.
Awesome. Wow, we're getting a lot of questions.
So getting a lot of questions. Another one is
that one while you read that one out.
For indenting code.
Oh gosh.
Are you in the space or the tab crowd?
This is controversial, and I refuse to be shamed. I like tabs.
Yeah, I'm a tab guy.
I'm a tab guy.
But this is my husband and I argue about. This is like divorce material right here.
But in your idea, do you do 4 spaces, 2 spaces, 8 spaces, 6?
I like a bigger. I like 4. Yeah.
Okay, well here we go. This is an interesting one. Yes, you can get Tim Tams at Target in the United States, but Dean Samuel wants Vegemite for breakfast tomorrow, apparently.
But from what I hear, Tim Tams in the US, still even the ones at Targets, just aren't as good as the ones out here. So we should set up a Tim Tam factory in portion business.
No one's got branded Tim Tam swag. That would have been amazing.
Great for our overseas guests.
So, Chris, a couple of final questions. So, if I was a girl, how do I get started getting more involved, getting out there, meeting other women to really, put myself out there? If I've changed a career from, I don't know, being a journalist or whatever it is, or in marketing, how do I get kicked off? Do I go and hang out with you guys at Yao?
If you want to learn to code, groups like Node Girls, Rails Girls, I've done Rails Girls are great. Elixir Girls, there's a ton of these that do Saturday courses that can get you up to speed. Weekend courses, meetups. Girl Geeks is a really open, inclusive community, more for networking. Women Who Code Sydney is a lot more hands-on coding workshops. There are groups. We do an all-women hackathon every year called She Hacks that I know AWS has supported in the past, which is really fantastic. And if it's for younger kids, there are great groups like the Girls Programming Network, who I've volunteered with. I know Nikki Ringland from Grok Learning is running a workshop today with AWS for 430 students. So there are lots of ways we're trying to get kids involved. But, people further along in their career, come along, reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I would be happy to give you advice for which meetups are good. I went to 125 meetups last year.
So what's the handle? Let everybody know.
I'm web_goddess.
Web_goddess. Cool.
Yeah.
I should also speak to you at some stage. We should see if we can actually run a game day or some sort of informative event. something that we can actually get people actually using tools, hands-on, and running
Love
through
to.
various scenarios.
Okay, so
That'd be
final
great to run.
question at AWS. Oh, well, maybe two questions. At AWS, we always talk about working backwards. That's one of our internal mechanisms for getting things done.
Yeah.
And we often write a narrative or a press release. What would and we reach into the future, if you were to write a press release about where you would like the state of the IT nation for women to be at, what would that look like?
I would love, a year or two from now for the Australian or the AFR to highlight some great Australian startup where the CTO is a woman who mentioned she saw us here today. That would be like highlight of my year.
That this talk kicked it off.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, final question. Who is your role model?
Who is my
At
role
serverless.
model? I have so many great role models. People like Lynn Langett, who's fantastic in the data science community. Dennis Bauer, who's here from Data 61 CSIRO.
Yeah.
Dr. Anita Sengupta, who is a rocket scientist. We had a woman rocket scientist on stage yesterday as well in the keynote. I love seeing women on stage. We need more of that. I'm looking at you, AWS. We need more of that.
We'll be there.
We can't be what we can't see, so let's do better.
Awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
Awesome.
Chris,
Fantastic.
Thank you. Chris Howard, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so
it
much
was
for
last
having
minute
me.
to get you on stage,
Yes.
but I'm glad you could make it. Guys, hope you really enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to continue live streaming, losing my voice. We're going to tune out for 5 minutes. Don't go away. We'll be back live streaming from the Sydney Summit. Ciao.
Bye.